Have you ever stood in front of your refrigerator wondering if you're storing your groceries the right way? Maybe you've caught yourself placing things in the fridge just because that's what you've always done, or because you think it's the safest choice. It's so easy to assume that refrigeration is the best way to keep all foods fresh, especially as we get older and want to take extra care of what we eat. But did you know that some common foods actually lose their flavor, texture, and even their nutritional value when kept cold? That's right. Sometimes the fridge isn't the friend we think it is. As we age, our senses can change, and food might not seem as exciting or tasty as it once did. This can affect our appetite and overall enjoyment of meals, and nobody wants that. So learning the right way to store food not only helps preserve the flavors and nutrients, but also makes eating a more delightful experience. It's these little habits that keep our spirits high and bodies nourished. In this video, we'll explore 3 everyday foods that you probably have in your kitchen right now, but you should never keep them in the fridge. I'll explain why, share some simple tips on how to store them properly, and maybe even surprise you with some kitchen wisdom that's been around for ages but often forgotten. And don't worry, these aren't complicated steps, just some easy changes that can make your meals tastier and healthier. Let's start with one that might be sitting in your kitchen right now, the humble tomato. Tomatoes are wonderful. They add color, flavor, and a touch of sweetness to so many dishes. But here's the thing. When you put tomatoes in the fridge, something happens that many people don't realize. The cold actually breaks down the texture inside the tomato. You end up with tomatoes that are mealy, mushy, or just plain bland. The cold environment stops the tomatoes from ripening properly, and it dulls their vibrant taste. If you love fresh tomatoes, you want to store them at room temperature, away from direct sunlight. Maybe keep them on your kitchen counter or in a fruit bowl. This way, they continue to ripen naturally and keep their juicy, rich flavor. When you do cut into one, it's like sunshine on your plate. I remember my grandmother used to tell me, never trust a cold tomato. At the time, I laughed, but now I understand what she meant. And here's a little bonus tip. If your tomatoes start to get too ripe and you want to slow down the process, you can then move them to the fridge, but only for a short time. Just be sure to bring them back to room temperature before eating so the flavor can come alive again. But ideally, fresh tomatoes are happiest outside the cold. Next up is potatoes, another kitchen staple. They're comforting, filling, and perfect for so many meals. Mashed, roasted, boiled, or baked. But storing potatoes in the fridge is a common mistake that can affect your health and the taste of your dishes. When potatoes get too cold, the starch in them turns into sugar, changing their flavor and texture. You might notice they taste sweeter or develop a strange aftertaste. Plus, the cold can cause the potatoes to become gritty when cooked. If you think about where potatoes grow, underground in the soil, they like a dark, cool, and dry place, but not freezing cold. So the best way to store potatoes is in a pantry, a paper bag, or a basket where air can circulate. Keep them away from onions, because onions can release gases that make potatoes spoil faster. And here's something important to keep in mind. If potatoes are stored too long or in the wrong conditions, they can develop green spots or sprouts. Those green parts contain a toxin called solanine, which can cause stomach discomfort if eaten in large amounts. So always check your potatoes before cooking and remove any green patches or sprouts. Lastly, let's talk about bread. Bread is one of those comfort foods that's hard to resist, whether it's a soft white loaf or a hearty whole grain. But the fridge is the enemy of fresh bread. When bread is refrigerated, it dries out quickly and becomes hard and stale. The moisture evaporates, and you lose that lovely softness and chewiness that make bread so satisfying. Instead, bread does best when kept at room temperature, wrapped in a cloth, or inside a bread box. This helps maintain the right amount of moisture while protecting it from drying out. If you have more bread than you can eat in a couple of days, freezing it is actually better than refrigerating. You can slice the bread before freezing, then take out what you need and toast it or warm it up later. I've found that when I keep bread out of the fridge, it tastes fresh longer and brings back the joy of a simple sandwich or a warm toast in the morning. There's just something about the smell and texture of bread at room temperature that makes it feel like a treat. So, you see, these three foods, tomatoes, potatoes, and bread, have one thing in common. They don't like the cold. Refrigeration, while great for many things, can sometimes do more harm than good for these staples. Making small adjustments in how we store these foods can make a big difference in how they taste and how much we enjoy them. And at our age, enjoying food is more important than ever. Now that we talked about these first foods and why they shouldn't be refrigerated, there are a few more kitchen secrets I'd love to share with you that will help keep your meals delicious and healthy. These little changes might surprise you, and I promise they're easy to apply every day. Picking up where we left off, there's something truly wonderful about understanding how these simple kitchen habits can bring back that spark of joy in our daily meals. It's not just about storing food the correct way, but about honoring the natural qualities of the foods we love. So let's continue with a couple more foods that many of us might be chilling unnecessarily, unknowingly robbing them of their best qualities. One such food is onions. They're like the silent heroes of our kitchen, adding flavor, aroma, and depth to countless dishes. Yet onions actually dislike the cold just as much as potatoes do. Putting onions in the fridge can turn them soft and moldy, making them spoil much faster. Onions prefer a cool, dry, and well-ventilated space, just like potatoes. Think about it this way. Onions naturally grow underground, absorbing the earth's nutrients and stored energy. They need to stay dry because moisture encourages them to sprout or rot. So storing onions in a basket or hanging them in a mesh bag in a dark and airy place helps keep them firm and fresh. And here's a little secret from many home cooks. Don't store onions near potatoes. The gases from onions can speed up the sprouting of potatoes, and vice versa. I remember when my aunt would always keep onions in a simple wire basket hanging in her kitchen. It looked charming, but more importantly, those onions stay good for weeks. That's the kind of practical wisdom that makes cooking easier and keeps your food at its best. Now let's talk about another favorite food that often gets misunderstood when it comes to storage, honey. You might think honey belongs in the fridge to keep it fresh, but in reality, honey is happiest sitting quietly on your kitchen shelf. Refrigeration causes honey to crystallize faster, turning it grainy and harder to use. Honey is a natural preservative, packed with enzymes and antibacterial properties that keep it safe for a very long time, even without refrigeration. When you store honey at room temperature, it stays smooth and delicious, ready to sweeten your tea or toast just as you like it. If your honey ever crystallizes, all you need to do is place the jar in warm water for a short time to return it to its liquid form. It's fascinating how these natural foods have built-in ways to preserve themselves when treated kindly. When we resist the urge to refrigerate everything and instead respect what each food needs, we get rewarded with better flavors and less waste. You might wonder, with all this talk about food storage, how much difference does it really make in our daily life? Well, it turns out quite a bit. Food that tastes better encourages us to eat more healthfully, which in turn nourishes our bodies and supports our energy. It's a cycle of care that starts with simple choices in the kitchen. For example, if your tomatoes are juicy and flavorful, you might be inspired to prepare fresh salads or sauces that brighten your meals. If your bread stays soft, that morning toast feels comforting instead of dry and disappointing. These little joys matter a lot, especially as we age and want to savor every bite. And on the practical side, storing foods properly can help prevent unnecessary spoilage. This means fewer trips to the grocery store, less money wasted, and more time enjoying your favorite recipes with the people you love. It's an easy way to add some calm and order to your kitchen routine. Of course, sometimes our kitchens don't have the perfect conditions. Maybe it's a humid climate or limited counter space. In those cases, you can get creative. Use breathable bags for your onions and potatoes. Keep your bread in a bread box or wrapped in a clean cloth. And place your tomatoes away from windows that get direct sun, but in a warm spot. Little adjustments like these go a long way. As we get comfortable with these ideas, you might even find yourself sharing these tips with family or friends. It feels good to pass on knowledge that's practical and helps others enjoy their meals more too. Now, while many of us automatically think of the fridge as the safest place, it's really about understanding each food's natural preferences. This way, we respect their needs and get the best from them in return. It's a bit like tending a garden, giving each plant the right environment so it can flourish. I hope you're feeling inspired to look at your kitchen a little differently today. These simple changes, like letting tomatoes bask in room temperature or keeping onions dry and airy, are easy to try and bring delicious results. And there's one more food on our list that surprises a lot of people, something many of us enjoy every day, but often chill out of habit. When you're ready, we'll explore that last food and wrap up with some thoughts on how all these small habits add up to a big difference in your food's flavor and your enjoyment. Now let's talk about that last food, something many of us enjoy daily, but that often ends up in the fridge when it really shouldn't be: coffee. Yes, coffee. It might surprise you, but storing your coffee beans or ground coffee in the refrigerator can actually hurt its flavor and freshness. Coffee loves to be kept in a cool, dark, and dry place, but not cold or damp. When you put coffee in the fridge, moisture can sneak in, and coffee is very sensitive to moisture. It absorbs odors from other foods, and the fluctuating temperatures when you open and close the fridge door cause condensation. All these factors can dull the rich, comforting aroma and taste we look forward to in every cup. Instead, the best way to store coffee is in an airtight container placed in a cupboard or pantry where it stays protected from light and heat. This keeps the oils and flavors locked in, so when you brew your coffee, it tastes fresh and satisfying, like a warm hug in the morning.